Well, welcome back into the garden here at Gardeners Cottage in Blakeney on the North Norfolk coast. We've got an absolutely beautiful sunny 1st of March here, and those sun loungers are starting to call to us, maybe a little later when we've done a few jobs around this garden. But just look how things are coming on. Really have got the first indicators of spring, just starting here with the February gold or tete-a-tete daffodils in the foreground, already in bud and opening up. Got a good crop of snowdrop flowers to show you around the garden that are already doing their thing fully. Some snowflakes that we've spread around, and just look at this lovely bank of bulbs. I think a lot of these are whites, which we selected for this border. It's east facing, gets the very early morning sun and then a little bit in late morning, but you can see by now, although the sun's not fully anywhere near its summer arcs yet, it's in quite deep shade already. But that does mean that the bulbs last longer in here than they would do in full sun. Let's look at this. I think somebody corrected us when we were calling these euphorbias. They're actually stinking hellebores, aren't they? And these seed themselves around this garden quite well. Got some celandines down the base, which haven't flowered yet and should be, I think, maybe a little later in the season. Always get them mixed up with the early flowering version that we have over on the farm in mid-Norfolk. But this border's still got a lot of flower to bring on for us. The buddleias, I'm really now tempted to start cutting back. Just look at the breaks that we've got on the buds here. This garden's very, very sheltered, and by this time of year we've got a lot of growth higher up. We don't like to cut these back too early in the season, because if the frost gets in them, we've lost them in previous seasons. But I think now I can certainly start reducing this one, because I don't want a huge, great big buddleia bush in the middle of this border. I do want to see behind it, and you can see on the wall we've planted climbing roses, which really need more light to get to them to get established. That's a repeat planting of the climbing iceberg we've got on this flint wall further down, and does really, really well. But you can see the additional sunlight that that particular one in the corner gets. At this time of year, I really like to try and get a little bit of an edge on some of the border edges, and I've started just digging this one out just to give us a little recess down. Soil gradually always works its way back up towards the front, but it does give you an edge on which to cut the lawns. These two are thoroughly enjoying a bit of summer sun. Ted's got peak position now, keeping well out of the fray, while these two just love those sun lounges. This is Vinca major. It just runs through this, it's the underside of a very well established, what started off as a little shrub but now is a very large shady canopy. I've managed to get some roses established through this last year. You can see that stem coming up from the base here, planted well away from the stem of the shrub itself, and it's got going quite nicely and gives these lovely cascades, but they do have to be repeatedly tied back into the framework that the shrub creates. But that vinca does really well on this little edge, just runs through there and gives us this lovely flush of little mauvey flowers at this time of year. Kate's already used the opportunity to take some of these more mature, larger clumps of snowdrops, even while they're still flowering, and split and replant in the same position, but then to extend the planting and to bring them out further. And by doing this, by planting 7, 8 or 9 bulbs in each little clump, you can really extend the floral carpet at this time of year. Best to get on and do it, in our opinion, rather than waiting until they finish flowering. Always has to be done in the green, otherwise you forget where they are and get distracted by the other garden chores later in the year. But if you can do it now while they're flowering and put them where they're going to have some impact, it'll do them no harm at all. They'll grow away in the moist, cool soil at this time of year and give you more clumps next year. We've grown this little tough hardy euphorbia along this wall for years. It stands the drought in summer, the dappled shade all year round, and at this time of year reliably gives you these little upright bracts of lime green that just pop. Again, really good underplanting with the snowdrops that we're trying to extend out. A little problematic here because this is actually a walkway. We try and cut with the lawnmower, so I have to restrict cutting that with the snowdrops coming out into it for as long as possible to give them a good chance to get established. There's very little grass left here. It's mainly that little mossy tufts that grow in that full shade under the very dense canopy of this weeping and flowering pear tree. We've been tidying up the back bank a little. See the new compost heaps that have been rebuilt on the back border of Gardeners last year. Ones previously had done very well. I tend to find here a pallet lasts around 8 to 9 years before it collapses and needs replacing. So we've replaced that single compost heap with a double width one, and that's allowing us to tidy up all the palm bracts and leaves that are constantly falling down out of this palm tree and causing quite a mat on the base. They look so messy, and if you do hit them with a lawnmower, tend to wrap themselves around the blades because they're very fibrous. These two are up to no good continuously. Just look, they love this garden. It's safe and secure for them, and we know they can't get out, but they do just love that freedom that they don't really get much of in terms of play areas. You're having a lovely time, aren't you? And enjoying the summer sunshine. Yeah, butter wouldn't melt in your mouth, but look at you. They've been digging holes around this lawn, which I've patched up with some of the material we've taken out from the edges. And there's Kate doing a little bit of weeding on the gravel. Got a few planters that we've redone this year, and they give us the opportunity to go spring bulb shopping this afternoon. We're hoping to hit one of the local garden centres and pick up a few maybe early force bulbs that have just been covered in polytunnels or greenhouses. Tend to give you that extra couple of weeks. We've got guests coming in a while, and we'd just like to get a bit more colour in this border. This is the one we did last year by removing that very large shrub that you can just see still at the back, and it's probably going to cause us problems. We've had discussions as to whether, when we were doing the little bit of new fencing you can see that completely encloses this back garden here at Gardeners, whether we should have, while the digger was on site, taken that out completely. But timing wasn't right, and it had all been planted up the end of last season. You can see the shrubs in here are doing really, really well. Got a mixed herbaceous planting, some roses, a few climbers coming up the back, a little bit of everything really that was spare from the main farm garden. Verbenas, catmints, we've got some hardy geranium in there and quite a bit of self-seeded. The little lime green is feverfew that does very well in this garden and gives us a lovely display in May and June. And more spring flowering bulbs in here would really just lifted at this time of year. You can see we've got, where I've put this edge, a little bit of thickening on the border. Got some chives coming up in there. That's what those lime green clumps are. A few what look like spring bulbs coming up there as well. A little bit of iris and some Cicericium here. Always looks a bit scruffy, Cicericium, at this time of year. It's very difficult to remove these black dying back leaves without pulling the whole crown and damaging it, so best just to leave it until the growth takes over, and they'll naturally just take care of themselves. Courtyard's looking very good. A few little bits of early cyclamen coming up. Most of them seem to be sitting under this barbecue, which we need to probably address. Thanks, Molly. Move those and appreciate that lovely bright colour of these little cyclamen at this time of year. In the pots we have, rather sad looking at this time of year, agapanthus crowns, which really, we've cut back most of the dieback growth, not showing any signs of shooting just yet, but they will be later starting into growth because the crowns are elevated and in these terracotta pots. One to the left is a broader leafed variety, slower growing, not as established in the crown. You can see those are already coming up through the ground. And let me just show you the ones that are planted out in the gravel for comparison. There we go, what a difference being planted out and at the base of a sunny south facing wall makes to these sun loving plants. Doesn't do particularly well here because, unfortunately, as you can see, it's right under one of our rather vigorous fig trees, which we are considering cutting quite hard back this year. But you can see the damage that the deer coming into this garden have done to the stems of this tree over the years. Just look at that, all munkjack gnawing at the bark, and that's the damage it causes. Quite disfiguring, but it disappears into the green as these emerge into their summer growth later in the season. So that's where we're at with the garden. Just coming on nicely. First really nice spring day we've had with the sunshine to really encourage us out, and do, even if it's just for 5-10 minutes, try and get out in your own gardens if you can, and just do 1 or 2 little chores. It will make you feel so much better just to start your gardening year off and make the most of this lovely weather if you've got it, which I hope you have. Have a great weekend, and thanks for watching.